This is Tony T here from Tony'sPicks.com with our NFL Pick Show here for Sunday, November 16th. For more free pick videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Lots of free picks on our channel for myself and our team of cappers here at Tony'sPicks.com, making it a great channel to subscribe to. Hit us up with that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com. We're a multi-capper site showcasing top performers in our industry. Click the links to the hot cappers, get signed up to long-term passes. You see our top performers here like Sean Higgs. Brian has been on, DeAndre as well. Ron Crawford's been on absolute fire up on our leaderboards. Rod, a big day as well. The latest Supreme Pick Series on the page with best bets and more. We will be locked and loaded here for this card on Sunday. Remember, all of our one-day passes are profit guaranteed. They must turn a profit amount purchase will be credited back to your account for site credits. That's profit guaranteed. And then our promo code TonyT at checkout will knock off that 15%. The link is in the description to get signed up. So let's go ahead. Let's get this one underway. Got the Commanders and the Dolphins going off here on Sunday. Washington quarterback Daniels, receiver McLaurin, and receiver Burks are out. A tackle is out on defense. Miami defensive end and nickelback are questionable. Miami has a clear injury advantage based here on the Chow ratings by 5.20. Commanders defense has the lowest rating at 65 based on their players on the IR. The game will be played in Madrid, Spain. Washington now 3-7 after a 44-22 home defeat to Detroit. The Commanders had movement in the passing game and rushed for 93 yards for 3.4 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 546 yards to the Lions with poor work stopping the run and pass. Marcus Mariota, 16-22 passes for 213 yards and 2 touchdowns. Miami improved to 3-7 after their 30-13 home victory against Buffalo. The Dolphins had movement in their passing game and rushed for 197 yards for 6.2 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 4 yards per rush to the Bills with 289 yards passing for 7.2 yards per pass attempt. 2 out in the game, 15-21 passing for 173 yards with 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. The Dolphins have won 2 of 3 and averaging 32 points per game in those wins. It is a 5-game losing streak for the Commanders as they've allowed an average of 36 points per game. The Dolphins' defense in their past 3 games is allowing 17 points per game with 3.7 yards per rush. In this period, they're running the football for over 4.5 yards a carry. The Commanders have failed to cover 6 of 7. Pick here Miami minus 2.5. Packers and the Giants going off here on Sunday. Green Bay receiver Golden and a right tackle are questionable. On defense, Parsons is questionable. New York quarterback Dart and receiver Slayton are out. On defense, the linebacker is out with an end and safety doubtful. A linebacker and corner are doubtful as well. Green Bay has a clear injury advantage based on the Chow ratings by plus 6.20. The Giants offense has the lowest ratings here at 73.9, with the Packers defense the highest rating at 91.2. We got Green Bay now 5-3-1 after a 10-7 home defeat to the Philadelphia Eagles. Packers were inefficient through the air on that Monday night and rushed for 140 yards for 3.9 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 3.2 yards per rush with 183 yards passing for 7 yards per pass attempt. Jordan Love here going 20 of 36 for 176 yards. New York drops at 2-8. A 24-20 road defeat at Chicago. The Giants had good movement in their passing game and rushed for 169 yards for 5.6 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 6.1 yards per pass attempt with 171 yards rushing for 6.1 yards per carry. Jackson Dart is out with concussion. Jameis Winston gets the start for New York for interim coach Mike Kafka. Winston last year with Cleveland completed 61% of his passes for 7.2 yards per pass attempt with 12 interceptions and 13 touchdowns. Green Bay on the road this year throwing for 251 yards for 7.5 yards per pass attempt with 28 points a game. On defense on the road, the Packers throw at a 68% completion rate. The Giants' defense at home allowing 4.9 yards a carry, but have rushed for 4.5 yards per run. Winston is a downfield passer and would expect here a high volume of throws here. The Giants have gone over in 4 of 5. Green Bay 5-2 the over on the road, facing teams that allow 350 yards passing per game or greater. Pick here will be Green Bay and New York over 42.5. Bears and the Vikings going off here on Sunday. Chicago linebackers are out with a safety questionable. Minnesota running back Jones, their left tackle and right guard are questionable. Their linebacker is out with linebacker safety and nickelback questionable. Minnesota has a slight injury advantage here based on Dr. Chow ratings by plus 1.10. The Bears defense has the lowest health rating at 79.4. Chicago improved to 6-3 after their 24-20 home victory against the Giants. The Bears were limited through the air and rushed for 171 yards for 6.1 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 431 yards with poor work defending the run and pass. Caleb Williams here, 20 of 35 passing for 220 yards with a touchdown. He rushed for 63 yards and a score. Minnesota fell to 4-5 after a 27-19 home defeat here to Baltimore. The Vikings were inefficient through the air and rushed for 120 yards for 6.7 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 152 yards in the game with 169 passing for 5.8 yards a carry. J.J. McCarthy here, 20 of 42 passing for 248 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. He rushed for 48 yards. Chicago defense on the road is allowing 34 points per game with 5.4 yards per rush and 72% completion rate for 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Minnesota defense at home allowing 22 points per game with 3.9 yards per rush and 178 yards passing per game and really good on third down. With Chicago 4-10 the spread on the road as an underdog of 7 or fewer points. Pick here in Minnesota minus 2.5. Texans and Titans going off here on Sunday. Houston quarterback Stroud and fullback are out. Tight end Schultz, right guard and right tackle are questionable. On defense, a nickelback is questionable. Tennessee and receiver Ridley is questionable. On defense, a safety is out with an end and linebacker questionable. Tennessee has a clear injury advantage based on the Chow ratings by 6.20. Houston offense has the lowest health rating at 72.4, with the Titans offense the highest rating at 90.1. Houston improved to 4-5 after a 36-29 home victory here against Jacksonville. The Texans had movement in their passing game and rushed for 130 yards for 5.9 yards a carry. On defense, they limited the Jaguars through the air and allowed 94 yards for rushing for 3.5 yards a carry. Davis Mills here, 27 of 45 for 292 yards with 2 touchdowns and a pick. He had a rushing touchdown. Tennessee now 1-8 after a 27-20 home defeat to the Chargers. The Titans had a poor passing performance and rushed for 88 yards for 4.6 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 4.4 yards per rush with 212 yards passing for 7.3 yards per carry. Cam Moore in the game, 12 of 21 for 145 yards. Tennessee has lost every home game this season by 7 or greater points. Houston's defense on the road allowing 3.2 yards a carry and a 59% completion rate. They rushed for 4.4 yards a carry on the road. Tennessee's defense at home giving up 33 points a game with 5 yards per rush and 74% completion rate for 8.5 yards per pass attempt. Now Mills, I should say, does have several starts. Former Stanford quarterback with the Texans, been there for a while. We'll take Houston here minus 6. Buccaneers and Bills going off here on Sunday. Tampa Bay running back Irvin, receiver Godwin, left guard are out. A right guard is questionable. On defense, the linebackers out. Buffalo tight end Kincaid is out. On defense, the nickelback is questionable. Buffalo has a slight injury advantage based on the Chow ratings by plus 2.40. The Bucs offense and Bills defense have a low rating here of 65. Tampa Bay now 6-3 after a 28-23 home defeat to New England. Buccaneers had movement through the pass and rush for 113 yards for 5.5 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 6.1 yards per rush with 269 yards passing for 8.7 yards per pass attempt. Baker Mayfield here, 28 of 43 passing for 270 yards with 3 touchdowns. Buffalo now 6-3 with a 30-13 road defeat at Miami. The Bills rushed for 4 yards a carry with movement in the passing game. On defense, they allowed 8.2 yards per pass attempt with 197 yards rushing for 6.2 yards per carry. Josh Allen here, 28 of 40 for 306 yards with 2 touchdowns and a pick. The Bucs offensively on the road completing 64% of their passes. The Bills defense at home allowing 5.4 yards per carry with 141 yards per game. Tampa Bay 13-4 the spread as a road underdog. Pick here Tampa Bay plus 5.5. Panthers and Falcons for Sunday. Carolina linebacker out. Atlanta left guard out with their right guard questionable. Receiver London is questionable. On defense, the linebackers out with their end and corner questionable. Carolina has a significant injury advantage based on the Chow ratings by plus 9.20. Panthers defense has the highest rating here at 91. The Falcons offense the lowest rating here at 79.5. Carolina drops to 5-5 after a 17-7 home defeat to New Orleans. The Panthers were poor in the passing game and rushed for 73 yards for 3.2 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 3.3 yards per rush in the game with 266 yards passing for 9.5 yards per pass attempt. Bryce Young in the game, 17 of 25 for 124 yards with a pick. Atlanta now 3-6 with a 31-25 loss to Indianapolis in Germany. Overtime game, the Falcons were ineffective through the air and rushed for 140 yards for 4.8 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 519 yards to the Colts with poor work against the run and pass. Michael Penix 12-28 passing for 177 yards and a touchdown. Falcons have lost 4 straight. The Panthers have dropped 2 of 3. Their offense on the road averaging 14.8 yards per game with poor work in the passing game. Defense on the road, they're giving up 4.5 yards a carry. Atlanta at home gets good quarterback play. Limits opponents at 59% completion rate for 5.3 yards per pass attempt. Panthers 3-9 the spread as they were an underdog of 7 or fewer points. The Falcons were embarrassed at Carolina 30-0 in their first meeting. Pick here Atlanta minus 3.5. Chargers and the Jaguars going off here on Sunday. LA receiver Johnson, their fullback Matlock, and the right tackle are questionable. On defense, the safety is questionable. Jacksonville tight end Long and the right tackle are out, with receiver Thomas questionable. On defense, the nickelback is out. Jacksonville has a clear injury advantage based on the channel ratings by +6. That's based on the Chargers players on IR. LA has the lowest rating on offense at 73.2. We got LA 7-3 after a 25-10 home victory against Pittsburgh. The Chargers had some movement in their passing game and rushed for 115 yards for 3.7 yards a carry. On defense, they limited the Steelers here to 73 rushing yards with 148 passing for 4.8 yards per pass attempt. Justin Herbert, 20 of 33 passing for 220 yards for the touchdown. Jacksonville fell to 5-4 with their 36-29 road defeat to Houston. Jaguars were poor throwing the football and rushed for 94 yards for 3.5 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 412 yards by poorly defending the run and pass. Trevor Lawrence, 13-23 passing for 158 yards with a touchdown and a pick. LA carries a 3-game win streak. The Chargers on the road are rushing for 5.4 yards a carry and completing 67% of their passes. They limit opponents to 19 points per game on the road by defending the pass well. Jacksonville has been inefficient with the pass at home and given 4.5 yards per rush with 233 yards passing per game. The Jaguars are 1-3 of the spread at home, facing teams that average 350 yards per game or greater. The Jaguars had difficulty getting to the quarterback in that game against the Rams overseas. So we're going to go ahead and take LA here. The Chargers, -3. Bengals and Steelers going off here on Sunday. Cincinnati quarterback Joe Burrow on IR. On defense, an end is out. Pittsburgh's left guard is questionable. On defense, 2 linebackers and a corner are out. Pittsburgh has an injury advantage based on the channel ratings by a +5.30. The Bengals offense and defense health ratings at 80 and 79. We got Cincinnati dropping to 3-6 after a 47-42 home defeat to Chicago. The Bengals had a monster pass performance as rushed for only 46 yards. On defense, they allowed 576 yards with poor work against the run and pass. Joe Flacco completed 31-47 for 470 yards with 4 touchdowns and 2 picks. Pittsburgh fell to 5-3 after a 25-10 road defeat at the Chargers. The Steelers had a poor passing performance and rushed for 73 yards for 4.6 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 3.7 yards per carry in the game with 199 yards passing for 6 yards per pass attempt. Aaron Rodgers here, 16-31 passing for 161 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. Bengals have gone over in 5 straight. Cincinnati on the road is allowing 4.4 yards per rush with a 59% completion rate for 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Pittsburgh at home completing 66% of their passes. Defensively at home, they're allowing 284 yards passes per game. Pick here will be Cincinnati and Pittsburgh over 48.5. Seahawks and Rams going off here on Sunday. Seattle center is out. LA receiver Adams is questionable. On defense, an end is questionable. Seattle improved to 7-2 with their 44-22 home victory against Arizona. The Seahawks gained 392 yards with good work in the run and pass. Offensively, they limited the Cardinals through the air and allowed 129 yards rush for 5.6 yards a carry. Sam Darnold here, 10-12 for 178 yards with a touchdown and a pick. LA now 7-2 after a 42-26 road win at the 49ers. The Rams had a good passing performance and rushed for 126 yards for 4.2 yards a carry. On defense, they held the 49ers at 3.5 yards per rush with 319 yards passing for 8.2 yards per pass attempt. Matthew Stafford 24 of 36 for 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. Seahawks have gone over in 4 of 5 on the road. They're completing 70% of their passes with 281 yards passed per game and 10.2 yards per pass attempt. LA in their past 2 months, they went for 261 yards per game with 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Seahawks 6 and 4, the over on the road against winning teams. We'll take Seattle and LA over 48.5. 49ers and Cardinals going off here on Sunday. San Francisco corner is questionable. Arizona quarterback Murray, receiver Harrison, and right tackle are out with a guard questionable. On defensive linebacker and corner are out with an end questionable. San Francisco has a clear injury advantage here based on the Chow ratings by plus 6.10. Cardinals offense has the lowest health rating at 61.3, with the 49ers offense the highest rating at 87.6. San Francisco drops to 6 and 4 after a 42-26 home defeat to the Rams. 49ers had really good movement in the passing game and rushed for 71 yards for 3.5 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 4.2 yards per run in the game with 275 yards passing for 7.6 yards per pass attempt. Brock Purdy expected to start here, return from injury here. He has completed 66% of his passes for 8 yards per pass attempt in 2 starts. Arizona fell to 3 and 6 after their 44-22 road defeat to Seattle. The Cardinals were inefficient through the air and rushed for 129 yards for 5.6 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 437 yards to the Seahawks with poor work against the run and pass. Jacoby Brissett here, 22 of 44 passing for 258 yards with 2 touchdowns. Arizona has lost 6 of 7. The 49ers have won 4 of 6 on the road. San Francisco on the road getting really good quarterback play. The Cardinals 1 and 3 on the road with their lone win against Carolina. They have struggled overall with quarterback efficiency. We'll take San Francisco here -3. Ravens and Browns for Sunday. Baltimore receiver Bateman is out with a nickel back. On defense here, out. Cleveland has a defensive tackle questionable. Cleveland has a slight injury advantage based on the channel ratings by plus 3.30. The Ravens offense has the highest rating at 90.4, with their defense the lowest rating here at 80.2. That is based on the Ravens defensive players on the IR. Baltimore improved to 4 and 5 after a 27-19 road win in Minnesota. The Ravens were limited through the air and rushed for 152 yards for 4.2 yards a carry. On defense, their opponent was inefficient through the air and allowed 120 yards of rushing here for 6.7 yards a carry. Lamar Jackson here, 17-29 for 176 yards and a touchdown. Cleveland drops at 2 and 7 with their 27-20 road defeat of the Jets. The Browns were ineffective through the air and rushed for 158 yards for 4.9 yards a carry. On defense, they held the Jets to 42 passing yards with 127 rushing for 4.2 yards a carry. Dylan Gabriel in the game, 17 of 32 passing for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 54 yards. Cleveland has lost 5 of 6. With a healthy Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are trying to claw back in the playoff picture. It is 3 straight wins and covers for the Ravens as they have allowed an average of 13.6 points per game while scoring an average of 28.3 points per game. Pick here will be Baltimore -7.5. Chiefs and the Broncos going off here on Sunday. Pacheco out for KC. Denver has a linebacker and corner out. KC has significant injury advantage based on the child ratings here at plus 7.5, and that's based on the Broncos defenders on the IR. Chicago defense has the highest health rating at 92.8. Kansas City fell to 5 and 4 after a 28-21 road defeat to Buffalo. The Chiefs had some movement in the passing game and rushed for 79 yards for 3.9 yards a carry. On defense, they allowed 4 yards a carry in the game with 263 yards passing for 10 yards per pass attempt. Patrick Mahomes in the game, 15-34 passing for 250 yards with a pick. Denver now 8-2 with their 10-7 home victory again on Thursday at night here against Las Vegas. Broncos were poor in the passing game and rushed for 84 yards for 3.1 yards a carry. On defense, they held the Raiders at 2.9 yards per rush with 114 yards passing for 4.2 yards per carry. Bo Nix here, 16-28 passing for 150 yards with a touchdown and 2 picks. Denver has won 7 straight. KC 1 and 3 on the road. The Chiefs on the road are completing 59% of their passes here. And on defense, giving up 71% completion rate for 7.2 yards per pass attempt. Denver at home has rushed for 5 yards a carry and putting up some great numbers on defense. KC 2 and 4 of the spread on the road against the division. The Broncos 4 and 1 of the spread at home. On a home game. Pick here Denver +4. Lions and Eagles going off here on Sunday, we've got Detroit tight end and both tackles are questionable. On defense, a corner and safety are out with the right corner questionable. Philadelphia has a significant injury advantage based on the Cello ratings by 11.60 plus. The Lions defense has the lowest health rating here at 73.9. We got Detroit now 6-3 after a 44-22 road win at Washington. The Lions gained 546 yards with good work in the run and passing game. On defense, they allowed 3.5 yards per carry with 195 yards passing for 8.9 yards per pass attempt. Jared Goff here, 25 of 33 for 320 yards with 3 touchdowns. Philadelphia 7-2 with their 10-7 road win at Green Bay. The Eagles had some really good movement in the passing game and rushed for 111 yards for 3.3 yards a carry. On defense, they limited the Packers through the air and allowed 157 yards passing for 4.4 yards a carry. Jalen Hurts here, 15 of 26 passing for 183 yards and a touchdown. Detroit's lost both games on the road against winning teams. There is some wind in the forecast at 17 miles per hour. Detroit's pass defense on the road is poor, giving up 71% completion rate for 7.7 yards per pass attempt. The Eagles at home rushing for over 5 yards a carry and completing 69% of their passes. Plus, they defend the pass well. Philadelphia 7-3 the spread at home against winning teams. We'll take Philadelphia minus 2.5. For more free pick videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Lots of free picks on our channel for myself and our team of cappers here at Tony'sPicks.com, making it a great channel to subscribe to. Hit us up with that like, that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. Then visit our site, Tony'sPicks.com, for our best bets. Our premium plays are there. And don't forget our promo code TonyT at checkout. We'll knock off that 15%. The link is in the description to get signed up. That'll do it for now. I'm Tony T, and we'll talk to you later.